So you're never going to get any better but I understand why they did what they did. And the biggest part of it to me is that I'm laughing at what I just saw on Twitter. I'm going to tell you guys this here in just a second, what I just saw on my Twitter. But anyways, the element of surprise there. I'm laughing. I just completely lost my train of thought. Ron's running our Twitter here. Fox 8 News here in Cleveland sent Little John from the Big Chuck, not Little John the rapper, Little John from Big Chuck and Little John. Little John Rinaldi is his name. Matter of fact, small world story. He was actually really, really good friends with my dad throughout his life. And I used to think it was so cool that my dad was like tight with Little John from Big Chuck and Little John. He owns a jewelry store. I don't know if he still does, but his family owned a Rinaldi's for the longest time. But anyways, the Fox 8 sent Little John to cover Marvin Lewis's press conference. Speaking of, that was his release yesterday. While it was not meant to be funny, we're going to get into that here. Let's get a break. Let's get some news. Let's get John McMullen in on this conversation, but his statement where he mentioned the little people of America and now how he had to go research and and the first apology was a total PR apology. Then the second apology was another one. It was just, hey, we'll talk about the apologies. I'll get you those quotes here when we come back. Let's get John McMullen from the Sports Network in on the conversation as well as we talk about John Manziel here as he makes his debut against the Bengals. We'll talk Browns and Bengals, a little bit about Cam Newton as he looks to be getting out of the hospital here from his car crash. We'll talk about Marvin Lewis and midgets and little people and all of that stuff here as the John Manziel era begins. There you hear it in the background. Will the money sign be out? See, I know some people dig the swag, and I hear you, but we'll see. We'll get into all of this when we come back as we talk to John McMullen from the Sports Network. We're going to take some more of your calls later. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan coming up in hour 2. We still got a lot of Browns and Buckeyes. NFL talk. We'll look around the playoff races, talk a little more about John Lester there, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. When we come back after the news, John McMullen from the Sports Network joins us next talking Johnny football, Browns and Bengals. Oh, my.
Some might cost a lot, but I'm the $1 million man, and you will be bought.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Hey, this is Scott Fujita, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. Cubs feel like they've won the lottery, according to new manager Joe Madden, referring to the team agreeing to a 6-year, $155 million deal with the highly coveted John Lester, so Chicago adding an ace to its rotation. Now, Lester alone won't snap the Cubs' more than century-old World Series championship drought, but they do have some work ahead, says ESPN Chicago's Jesse Rogers.
Not one guy wins the World Series. The Cubs have a great prospect base of hitters. They're going to have to add to that pitching staff. It's a young bullpen. It's a work in progress. Anybody that thinks Lester is going to do it all in 2015 for the Cubs is fooling themselves. But it's a heck of a start, heck of a way to get it going.
Jesse Rogers on the Freddie Coleman Show. With Lester off the market, that leaves Max Scherzer and James Shields as the biggest name free agent pitchers looking for deals. NBA, several Knicks players at odds with star forward Carmelo Anthony, reports ESPN's Chris Broussard, because they feel he's not playing team basketball. That includes Tim Hardaway Jr. He and Anthony exchanged some choice words during last week's loss to the Nets. 4-19 New York is off to the worst start in franchise history.
It's the holiday season, which means there are probably lots of football fans strapped for time. Then again, if they're at Buffalo Wild Wings, they can pick up a few gift cards during a timeout. Time saved, gift bought. In other words, a win-win. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Now, back to the Sports Fix.
Do we want to get rocked?
Browns fans all over hoping that's the lead into this Sunday's game. They want to get rocked. They will they? I don't know. They will, one way or the other. They may. It's going to be a lot of fun. Getting ready to talk about it with John McMullen from the Sports Network. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. J-Rock back with you guys here, rolling on, getting ready to head into hour 2 still to come. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. We're going to open the phones back up. You guys, by the way, Bruce hit me up during the break. Call got dropped. No worries, but I'll get the phone lines back open for you guys here in a little bit. Don't worry. Just sit tight on that. Had a couple of calls during the break as well, guys. We'll open the phones back up for you guys at the end of the show. As a matter of fact, let's see if I can do this. I had a message come in during the break here. Let's see if I can play this for you guys. If I can, I'll get it to you now.
Hey, good afternoon, Big Daddy. This is Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut. I've been trying to get through, but I got to give up for a minute here. I got to go watch Mike Pettine talk over here on ESPN. All right, brother. You hang in there, and if he gets done quick, then I'll try to call.
There we go. All right. Anyways, 216-539-7535. Big Bob, call us later. Bruce, call us later. Phones are closed as we go to John McMullen from the Sports Network. Keep the conversation rolling. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix. CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Here we go. Going to the phones now. Very curious to see. As I mentioned last week, John McMullen, we talked about this, and at that point in time, he was maybe in a different place than he is this week, or maybe not, about the Browns making the switch from Brian Hoyer, which we thought was going to happen last week. Was it perhaps premature then, on time now? Let's see where John's at. Going to the phones, John McMullen from the Sports Network. John, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Well, thanks for being here, as always, my friend. And start right there with what I said. I know last week, you were very much in the camp, as was I, that the Browns were making a panic move when everybody thought they were going to make the switch. And it turned out that Mike Pettine stuck true to his quarterback for one more week against the Colts. coming out of the Colts game, and this is our first time to talk since the Browns played the Colts and had that great defensive performance that went for naught, unfortunately. What does that, if any, change your thoughts this week? Obviously, now it's Manzel, but did your thoughts change during and after the Colts game? Where are you at with the Browns' decisions?
Yeah, they did change. I think it was premature. I think you said it right. It was premature last week, and now it's on time. I think that's exactly the situation. I think in the North Division, things change drastically from week to week, as we know. They have all year, and Cleveland is now in last place, behind the 8 ball, and you can paint this as a situation where Johnny Manziel can come in, and if he plays well, he's the savior, of course. If he doesn't play well, you can kind of paint it as last week's game was the last real test to get in that playoff hunt. So I think you can shift it, the narrative, and I thought there would have been tremendous pressure on Johnny Manziel last week. I think it's all, not that there isn't, there's always pressure when you're starting quarterback in the NFL, so I don't want to say that, but it's much more tempered now, even though obviously it's still meaningful football in a big game. There's a big difference from being where they were last week and where they are this week. So I think it's clear that the organization lost confidence in Brian Hoyer. It's clear in Buffalo. It's first-round pick. We've been talking about it since the preseason. This was the eventual end game. There was no question about it, and the end game is now here.
Absolutely. One thing you mentioned, tempering expectations, you can forget about that, because I'm telling you that there is a significant portion of the Browns fan base that not only doesn't credit Brian Hoyer for any of the Browns' success, but literally blames him for the Browns' record not being better than it is, and they expect that with this change at quarterback, the Browns are off and running. And, of course, I find that amusing because I've got to go back. And I'm not the only one. I know I heard Jay Glazer say it. A lot of guys say similar things, and you and I have talked about that. When people want to throw, I see in the chat room, people want to throw stats at me. Well, 4, 5 bad weeks in a row. Well, you show me how many teams will sit through 30, 40, 15 quarterback ratings that long with the savior on the bench and not make a move sooner. I'm saying that as much as Brian Hoyer was a function of this decision, not John Manziel, this was Hoyer failing, not Manziel succeeding and taking the spot. But the fact that Brian Hoyer got to be that poor for that long stretch of time, what does that say about the Browns' belief in the option on the bench? So keep that in mind. But I've got to think that's a valid point.
Yeah, I think it's valid that they stuck with him so long. But, you can shift. We all know how statistics can be used and molded towards one side or the other. Sure. One statistic I was throwing out last week was 20-57. And that was the Browns' record in the 77 games previously that Brian Hoyer hadn't started. Yep. So when you look at 10-5 coming into last week's game versus 20-57, well, you can shift that in a way that pointed towards exactly where Mike Pettine was, and that he gave Brian Hoyer one last chance. There's no question he hasn't been playing well. I think part of it, dates back. We talked about it with the running game. We talked about it in the entire offense. I think it dates back to really the Alex Mack injury. I think people gloss over it. Not that injuries aren't an excuse, because everybody deals with injuries, and I think for the most part, Cleveland has done a decent job trying to make up for it. But again, when you're talking about Pro Bowl players, it's more difficult to replace them. I think that's an issue. I think it was magnified by the fact that Andrew Luck didn't have a typical Andrew Luck game. and certainly the Browns' defense deserves partial credit for that. But as we've all seen in the NFL, in today's NFL, and in fact, I just got sent a note by the NFL a few minutes ago where the entire league is on pace to set a new record for yards per game in 2014, which would be on pace to surpass the single season record. Which, guess